Hey, Composing Gloves here. I'm wearing a hat, and today we're going to be talking about meter. Let's dive into this jazz. It gets kind of complicated and weird, and you can get pretty easily lost. So let's do this. There's two types of meter, but meter, it has a broader sense. So there's this type of meter where we basically say what the way we interpret our beats. So it's the way we interpret our measure is meter. So let's look at it back from time signature land. So time signature land is how we sort of derive our meter, but meter is more than that. So we have in time signature land, we would look at this and we'd say this is 4/4, and in music we would write a 4 with a 4 below it. The top 4 would denote the number of beats in the measure. So look at this. We can see that by the number of these lighter lines. So we have one segment of time, two segments of time, 3, and then 4. So we say, oh, we've got 4 beats in our measure, which is our measures are denoted by these darker lines. And then we say what note gets the beat, basically what length of time is this, and we go, oh, that's a quarter note. How do we know how long that quarter note is? And we say, oh, well, we look at our beats per minute. How many quarter notes happen in a minute? And that is denoted by our tempo, beats per minute, or otherwise known as BPM. So we've got this figured out, and now we can go ahead and write music, right? So what does meter play a role in here? How is meter seen here? Before we get into simple and compound and all that other thing, it's more important to understand why we use these meters in the first place. The first one is a meter. So if we were to split this up, let's split this up into 4 equal parts, right? Now we see here the most important beat will be this beat, beat 1. Right? That's almost always the most important beat. That's what we want to be the most important. So our meter we could denote as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Super easy peasy. But we see here that we have this natural halfway point. Meters with the number of beats that are easily divisible by 2 create this sort of sub most important beat. This almost as important, but not quite as important as the first beat. For example, beat 3 in 4/4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And a lot of people play, they're like doon, 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 doon. Like they give natural emphasis to that natural beat right there. So that sort of happens because it's a halfway point. So it creates this. But in things like 3/4, and 3/4, where there's 3 beats, we have 1, 2, 3. There's no easy halfway point without subdividing outside what the broader beat is. So here we have a beat, but if we wanted to cut this in half like this would not land on 1, 2, or 3. It would land on the and of 2. So that's not that comfortable to do, so we don't do that. And so this gets a little complicated. A lot of people. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the types of meters. So you understand that. So if I gave you something like I said, make a 32/8, 32 beats in a measure, which is kind of crazy, and the 8th note gets the beat. Easy peasy, right? Oh, okay. Now that's a little outlandish. Now let's get back to simple meter. So that's like meter, as you can see, plays a role, and this is really actually syncopation is what we're really talking about. But meter influences it, and then syncopation is sort of the way you deviate away from where the beat was expected to be. So we haven't talked about syncopation yet because it's a much more advanced topic. Now, meter, it forms these opinions of beats. I just want to make sure you really get this. But it really has to do with the way a beat subdivides. So there's this sort of bigger view that we just looked at. Now the smaller view is, let's look at one beat. How does this beat break down? That's the question we ask. And we say, well, it breaks down into, if we can, split it. Why is my shift button not working? That's working. Oh, duh. I have to hit this shift button. Anyways, it's the cut. So we cut it into 2 equal parts. That's how it breaks down. It breaks down into 2 equal parts. And so we say, can we write all the rhythms we want by always breaking it down into 2 equal parts? Are there other rhythms available to us that we are not reaching? And the answer is, of course, yes. We could break it down into 3 equal parts. And if we want to get philosophical, I'm sure we could come up with more weird ways. But for music, we have 2 meters. One of them is called simple. That's when a beat naturally breaks down into 2 equal parts. But there's another kind. There's a kind that breaks down into 3. That's compound. So let's look at one of those. Let's say, well, this is the length of a beat. Well, if I wanted to break down into 3 equal parts, I need it to be that big. How many steps is this? Well, in FL Studios, because we're using MIDI, they denote this length of time, a 16th note, as a step. So we want this to be equal, the steps per beat to be equal to 3. So now we could see here that it's now 3. So now our beat naturally breaks down into 3 equal parts. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. And so that is a compound meter. Now, this is very differently counted. This be 1. Now, there's different counting schemes. There's different counting schemes for this sort of a thing. We are not going to worry too much about them, but you will see this pop up as we get into triplets and tuplets and things like that. But that's where these things come from. So we will count them as 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, and we go ahead and we can count in compound meter like that. And we generally won't run into issues. There's ways of doing it with 16th notes, because we could come in here and split this one in half. But our general beat, what was the beat, what you need to remember about compound is that it was originally in simple meter, it was divisible into 2 equal parts. But in compound meter, it's divisible into 3. Okay, now let's look at an example of simple meter, and we will move from there. So we have a thing here, and it breaks up into 4 equal parts, right? And we talked about this sort of beat structure that goes along with them. We'll look at these meters more and more in future lessons. But essentially, we know that this is simple meter because the beat gets broken down into 2 equal parts. And so we would call this simple quadruple meter. Why quadruple? Well, the second word in this, so simple is denoted by the type of meter. So is it simple or compound? Well, it's simple, so it's simple meter. And then our next word is denoted by the number of beats. So we have 4 beats. That's quadruple for 4. So it's simple quadruple, and then it's a meter. So it's simple quadruple meter. Easy peasy, right? You understand that. And it sounds like this. But if we did this, and now we could break it up into 4 parts, and la la la, it's easy peasy. And so we're taking advantage of the meter we've written here. Now, of course, we can change where the beat's expected to be, but the meter itself sort of imposes this sort of a feel on it. So, okay, let's go to another example of simple meter. Let's go to 2/4. So we can see here, the quarter note still gets the beat, which means we can still break it into 2 equal parts. However, now we've got this here. Now we've only got 2 beats. So it's 2/4 or simple, and there's only 2 beats. So it's duple for 2. Duple is 2. So it's simple duple meter. So here we've got 1, 2. Now in 2/4, what makes it different than 4/4? Well, in 4/4, it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, or it's 1, 2. Or here I'm breaking things up into, it should be like this. My bad. I'm working with 8 notes. I should be working with quarter. So we have 1, 2, and this 2 will be less important, right? 1, 2. Where originally this one was 1, 2, 3, and 3 was slightly less important than 1. And 2/4, it is truly every bit as important, because guess what? This is 1, and this is 1. 1, 2, 1, 2. So we get this. It's the same thing as if I were to play it through. So that's the meter. So if someone says, oh, I don't understand the difference between 2/4 and 4/4, well, it's that beat structure that gets set up. But they're both simple. One simple duple, one simple quadruple. So simple meter should start to make some sense. Let's move on to one other type of simple meter. And then it's a good sort of segue into compound meter, because you can start to ask a lot of questions. But we're going to keep it simple right now. No pun intended. Let's look at 3/4. So, oh, by the way, to get to this menu, hit F11 and then click the project tab, and you'll see this time division, beats per bar, steps per beat. So, okay, now we're in 3/4. And what is this? Well, this is technically, we could still break it down into 2 parts. So this is simple meter, and how many beats are there? There are 3. So it's simple triple meter, because there's 3, triple. Simple triple meter. Very easy things to do. So now this would be denoted. And our typical beat structure with a meter like this is, and we'll look at more and more examples and ways of using this, but we need to really sort of identify this. Now let's move on to compound meter. Now in compound meter, we want the note length to be that long, right? Let's say, now the most common one by far for this is 6/8, but it gets weird with 6/8. So let me show you 6/8. So we have 6 beats per bar, but it's 6/8. So 6 beats per bar, but the 8 is in the bottom. that means the eighth note gets the beat. How do you do that? Well, we know an eighth note is worth 2/16 notes, and we know that 1/16 note is equivalent to 1 step. So if we want 2 of those, we have to set our steps per beat to 2. Now the eighth note gets the beat, and we are good to go. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, excuse me. And this is where it starts to get pretty fun. So now we're in compound meter. And you might be wondering, well, wait a second. We can split this into 2 equal parts because it's an eighth note. So isn't that simple meter? Isn't that what that is? The answer is no. And the reason is, we're dealing with some products of written music that carry over into our land of MIDI. The reason is we wanted a beat, the thing to receive the beat to be this. That is a dotted quarter note. Now, a dot next to anything in written music means you make it longer by half. So you take the quarter note, you split it in half. So you say, oh, this quarter note's, equivalent to 2 eighth notes. So a dotted quarter note's equivalent to 1 quarter note plus half of a quarter note, which is an eighth note. And that is the length of a dotted quarter note. So we actually have no way of representing this by just splitting things in half. So what do? Well, we found, hey, look, there's this ratio thing going on here, and we're gonna take advantage of that. And so this is actually trying to this down here is trying to express this. That's the main reason we use 6/8. Then later on, people came along, and humans being humans, they said, why don't we look at it 100 other different ways? And now there's all sorts of weird ways we can sort of look at things. But typically, and almost always, you will see this. Now, in written music, there's actually a way to indicate what you mean. That's the way you bar the notes. And so there are these bars that go across to connect notes. And the way you bar notes shows where the beats should be. It identifies your meter in a much more clear manner. Here, we can identify this. It's kind of hard to identify it, but you would identify it by the way you stylistically write it. So it would be obvious by your what are these? Velocities. It'd be obvious by your velocities down here. Now, that's why people who write out music and they don't ever change their velocities in MIDI are amateurs. They're not emphasizing any kind of a meter. So this sort of information is useless to them because they're not using it. So anyways, this could also, we know that now, hopefully the mystery, you get it, this is actually a compound meter because it's the expression of this note being chucked up into 3 beats. And the only reason this exists is because in written music, there was no way to express it. There was no way to express this really. And I guess in here, it's kind of the same issue. But so we would count this 1, 2, 3. Now, the way I've always been taught to count this when counting 6/8, because there's 2 ways to view this. You could view these as triplets, which I've seen some instructors do, but it's kind of weird. But the way you would count compound meter could be 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Well, 1 la li, 2 la li, 1 la li, and that would create it. But then you get into issues when notes get shorter. So some people will count it just like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's just as bad, kind of. So when you get to counting and stuff, it can get a little weird. But there are systems out there for it. We're not going to worry too much about it. Now, this is a compound meter, really cool. There are other kinds. Let's say, for example, if we wanted 3 of these guys to receive it. You know how we had like 3, 4? Well, why not this? Well, we would need to add 3 more eighth notes. So that means in total, we would have to have 9 beats. So it would be 9. And now we have something called 9. And then the eighth note gets the beat. So it's 9/8. And we could have more. And we'd have 12/8. And we could continue forward or backwards or whatever you want to do. Now, let's look at this another way. So hopefully that makes sense. We were trying to express this value. And this sounds like this, by the way. So you see, oh yeah, let me put the meter in here like it normally would be. So it'd be something like this. Against, now this is the other way to look at it. We could look at it as 3 sets of 2. Now, what is this called? Well, this is a simple meter of some kind, right? Because we're grouping them and the beat breaks down into sets of 2 as opposed to a bigger beat breaking down into sets of 3. See, it's all about where your perspective is. And so some people will use 6/8 for that. And they'll even write pieces where it switches in in there. It gets weird. It's called complex meter. We're going to look at that after we dissect this. So we can look at it like this. So this is the compound meter type. Or now we could get into the simple meter, which would be every other note is essentially supposed to be breaking it down into 1, 2, 1, 2. So this is essentially breaking this in half, this original thing, which was only this long. So we have 1, 2, 3 of these guys, but they're being broken down. So we're giving our meter essentially the quarter note. This is, if you look at this, 3 quarter notes. This is 3/4. So 6/8 is a weird version of 3/4. But do you see how simple meter? It's not. It came from compound meter, but now we've got this weird thing from that simple meter. It's this weird deal. Okay, so it blame history in our writing system. But that's why 3/4 is a complicated deal. It can be viewed as simple triple, which could be viewed as 6/8, which is I had a friend telling me that they thought it was in 6/8, and I'm like, no, it's not in 6/8 technically. It's this weird deal with meter. That's in 3/4 because he saw everything like this sort of, and that's not why you would call up that. You would treat, you're gonna write a piece like that, but if you want to be weird, you could go from a triple meter and then you could shift it to a simple meter, and that you would be doing what's called borrowed time. But in 6/8, it's not really borrowed time. It's just a shifting of the meter, which is sort of borrowed time, but borrowed time usually indicates a tuplet of some kind. So if that didn't make sense to you, don't worry too much about it. But essentially, so we have 1, 2, 3, 1. So you see, it's the same thing as like 3/4 pretty much. So it's just, that's that. So if you understood all of that, I'm really proud of you. Now, let's move on to a bigger problem. Not a bigger problem, but an interesting one. You have things like this. So let's get rid of that eighth thing. So the only reason we use eighth notes, by the way, for that particular example, which is again 2 steps, that the only reason we do that is because that's the only way we could divide up something like this. You can't use quarter notes. You can't do that. But we could use eighth notes. Okay, let's move on. Let's go back to quarter notes and let's go to 4/4. Okay, cool. So we are familiar with this land. We know it's a simple meter. Oh, I did 5/4. Well, that's what I wanted to do. I was going to move you to this. So we'll just go straight to it. So we know 4/4, 4/4, but what about this guy? Now we get into something where the composer will often denote it. Because what if they were trying to do what they did with 6/8? What if they're trying to notate some value that's this long and give that the beat and then this? And so in pieces that do this, this is called either odd meter because there's an odd number of beats, or complex meter because it's a mix of compound meter and simple meter. How do we tell what's what? Well, they'll usually have a little thing like at the top of the music. Now here they won't, but at the top of the music, they'll have 2 + 2 + 3. And that'll tell us where to put the emphasis is on the beats, or the emphasize, I guess. That's right. I say that every time. I'm still not sure. So that tells you where to put the emphasis. So that's the beat structure I was talking about earlier that's sort of generated from this. So here, let's break this down a little bit. So we have 1 beat of 2 where this gets a beat and then this gets the other beat. So this is a simple time because it breaks down into 2 equal parts. But this is compound time because it breaks down into 3 equal parts. So this would be counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, or like so. Let's just change it, Let's make these silent, or at least really close to silent. And we'll take this down. Whoops. And these 2 down. And so they would be kind of like this. Or we could change it the other way around. We could say, hey, I actually meant this. So I wanted to start out compound and then end up simple. And so now this would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, sorry. So hopefully that makes sense. Now you can do things like more complicated things. At least I think this is more complicated. You have things like 7/8. You have 5/4, and you'll get into like a lot of, styles of metal they like to mess with these sort of weird meters. Now we have something called mixed meters. It's like this, only a little less complicated. There's actually no way I know of to do it in FL without just ignoring the grid. And how do you do that? Well, I want my quarter note to receive the beat, but let's set this to 1. So now it's just 1/4. So we've essentially removed meter and just given the quarter note the beat. There are some other repercussions with this sort of a method, but all you would do is you'd say, now we've learned that meter, we get a sense of meter from the way the beat structure that gets set up. We're told that. And hearing meter is a little confusing because sometimes they overlap, like that 6/8 example with my friend. Is he gets confused between that and 3/4, and that's exactly why extracting meter, it's like 6/8 was meant to be compound, so you wouldn't typically say it. You'd say it was 3/4 or simple triple time. So let's go over here. So let's clone this twice. And now let's really look at this. So now we've got, let's say we wanted to create that 5/4 thing. Well, mixed meter, all it means is instead of denoting it as like 5/4, let's say you don't always want to do that. And I've had pieces of music that'll do this. They'll go 2/4 3/4 or whatever. So they'll go like, let's say here we want it to be simple. So we'll go, oh, this one in simple meter will be slightly louder. So this is essentially a 2/4 measure because there's 2 beats and the quarter note gets the beat. And then this one is 3/4. So this one will be slightly louder. So in the music, you would literally see a double bar line or a bar line. I forgot exactly what it looks like. I believe it's a double bar before you do a meter change. And it would be 2/4, and then it would be 3/4. And then you'd have another 2/4, and then you would have a 3, or this is a 3/4. You'd have another 3/4. And so, but see here, we'd have to look at it here. The FL doesn't do this, but if you go into like Pro Tools, they have capabilities to introduce the different meters. I'm not sure if Ableton can. I've never tried. But anyways, now you have your mixed meter, and that's just simply like complex meter. Only the advantage is now you could reverse it. So you could have 2 3/4s right back to back. And I did this one weird. 1 2 1 2 3. So it should be 1. And so you could have 2 of these sets right back to back, and so you can like vary it up, and you've mixed your meters. You're mixing meters from all over the map, and so that's how you do it here. It offers some very, very cool rhythms, ones that people, FL users, probably very rarely mess with, because although you can sort of get that kind of thing, it's way more complicated to think about. But anyways, that's mixed meter, that's odd meter, that's complex meter, that's simple meter, Scott's compound meter. That's just meter in general. And you can see, now you understand some of the volume implications, and hopefully meter makes a lot of sense to you right now. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe. Support me on Patreon so I can continue to do these sorts of things, and have a blessed day.